Welcome to the WOD Pod. Join me as I sit down with CrossFitters, fitness experts, top coaches, professional athletes, and other well-known gym goers to listen to their journey through fitness. In this episode, Carlos reflects on his upbringing and reasoning for joining the army at age 16. He explains his discovery and passion for functional training and the reasons he decided to open his gym, Crossfit Gainsborough. I have a feeling we'll be seeing Carlos at the Crossfit Games as a Masters athlete in 2025. I'm sure of it. Enjoy this one. Rolling. Cool. We are episode 14. Welcome to the WOD Pod. This is the last episode of Series 1. So you just made it on Series 1. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for providing the venue. We're here at CrossFit Gainsborough, Carlos's gym. But we'll come on to that later on. Quick shout out to the sponsors, WOD Powders. They've just dropped their brand new Creatine RX Black Edition and the Cinnamon Cereal Vegan Protein, so go check them out. First of all, how are you doing?
Excellent. Thank you very much for having me, Tom.
No worries. Congrats on the win yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
So, we'll quickly reflect on that. Blackwall Fitness hosted the Gunpowder Plot, and Carlos entered the team with Cam and Sam and smashed it.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible, to be honest. Won 5 out of 6 events. Pretty much cruised it, didn't we? Absolutely smashed it, the team.
I mean, at the end, you didn't really look like you were kind of sweating much or out of breath or anything. you looked pretty steady, although the 135 hang power clean was failed. So I'm expecting to see that in training next week.
Well, don't worry. I went back to the drawing board last night. I had a look at the video. I see my mistakes, what I made wrong. So I'm looking to adjust them in a couple of weeks, get back to it.
And hit that 135.
100%.
So let's find out about kind of the early stages in your life before we go into CrossFit and the gym. Kind of what did growing up look like?
So growing up, from the start, I was born in North London. Parents didn't work out at a very young age, so a couple of months, and I moved around London and then ended up living in Essex till when I was about 8 years old. Ended up having 5 brothers, so I'm the oldest of 5 boys. So my childhood was difficult, living on a council estate in Essex, pretty rough area. Didn't have much opportunities, and ended up getting kicked out at the age of 15. Moved back to London with my grandparents, and I didn't know what I was doing with my life. So moved on from there. My dad was in prison for 9 years, and he'd just got out, which was hard because I didn't have pretty much anyone to look up to as a kid. Being with my mum, that weren't very easy either. To this day, still struggle, still have arguments and stuff like that. But we managed to work it out. It's amicable. Do you know what I mean? And now we're moved on. My dad took me to the Army Careers Office when I was 16 years old. Didn't know if I wanted to do it or not. He just said, go and have a look. I wish I did it. And he didn't want me to make the same mistakes that he did when he was a young boy. And ended up joining the British Army at the age of 16, 17 years old. I passed out. What
was school like? So how did you get on at school?
School, I didn't really enjoy school. I was very small when I was a kid, and I felt like I had to defend myself quite a lot because I wasn't like a big kid. I had a very big personality, and people thought that they could push me around.
I imagine having 5 brothers either helped or didn't help. I don't know which.
Having 5 brothers didn't help because I was the oldest, and there was 3 years apart. So by the time I got to when I was in my last year of secondary school, they was only just joining.
Right.
So it's pretty much out for myself. All the attention was on my brothers, and I never really had much attention from my mum. But that's understandable. She had 4 other kids to look after. Pretty much I was always reliant on myself when I was a kid.
Yeah, and so you were kind of not forced into the army, but taken down there by your dad. Did you, first of all, are you glad that that's what happened?
I wouldn't change it now. It's probably one of the things that's shaped my life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't join the British Army.
You'd never know where you would be or how it would have panned out, but what do you think would have happened?
I did enroll into a college in London just before I joined the army to be a chef, actually.
Right, okay.
Me and my granddad used to cook, which was one of the great parts of my life. My granddad was more or less my role model. And we used to cook all the time, every single weekend. Used to go there, used to sit me up on the counter when I was a little kid, and we used to cook all different meals and just experiment. And they were some of the really fun times of my life, spending it with my grandparents. So I'd enrolled into being a chef. When I went to join the British Army, my granddad, I'd never seen much emotion from him. It's the first time I ever saw him cry. That, like, obviously for me, that was a massive experience, because like knowing that he cared that much was incredible. But like, I had my own reason to join in the army, and I think it was the right choice.
So how did you get on initially when you joined the army? Did you kind of embrace it, or did you react well to being part of the army?
When I first joined the army, I went to a place called Basingbourne in Harrogate. Have you ever seen the film Full Metal Jacket?
No.
So Full Metal Jacket was formed in Cambridge, and it's like an old war film.
Right, okay.
Like, definitely get on and watch it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But I went there, and to be honest, a lot of it was a blur, because I didn't know what I was doing it for. I was just doing it because I didn't know what I was doing with my life.
Yep.
And until I passed out, and I went to Catterick, did my phase 2 of training as like a guardsman, so training to be a Queen's Guard.
Right.
I passed out, and I still didn't know where I was. Like, people were coming back from Iraq, and I just got to battalion, like a 17-year-old boy, and watching all these people like coming back, going out drinking because they'd just been on operational tour. Still didn't know where I stood in life, because it was pretty chilled in battalion at that time, because they was letting them all have a rest period. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
So I just kept on top of like what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? I was like doing all my kit, making sure I had a full locker layout. But all these other guys come back from Africa and have been in the army for years. All their lockers were in a state. And I was like all keen. And I didn't know where I was going with my path. So because I was so like, I used to just kept myself fit, healthy, and a lot of the other lads weren't like that. They all got involved with all the other lads going out drinking and stuff like that. And ended up joining, going to a recce platoon. I got a recce platoon carder. Right. And I think there was about like 40 people that entered this recce platoon carder when I was a 17-year-old boy, and had like people have been in like from 3 years to 9 years. And I ended up getting out of, like, I think there was about 7 of us that got through out of that 40, and I was one of them at 17 years old, which was
probably the youngest.
Probably the youngest there. And it was a very, very like unlikely or unusual for people to be getting in at that age.
How long were you in the army for?
11 years.
Okay, and how long did it take for you to realise that this is what you wanted to do, rather than it being something that you kind of did because you had no other choices? When did you think, okay, this is actually...
When I was in recce platoon, I learned an awful lot about like what I wanted to do. Like, I got a lot of time training, a lot of experience from the people above me. It's a very like senior platoon, if you know what I mean, in the Coldstream Guards. And I went to Afghanistan with them in 2009. And on Op Herrick 11, and when I came back from there, that was where I decided, right, I've got ambitions of what I want to be. I do not want to be stuck in this platoon as a guardsman, because that's like the lowest rank in the guards, for as long as some of these are. Some have been in a guardsman for like 6 years, 7 years, and I was like, that's not me. I'm too driven and hungry now. So I ended up had a big battalion brief. So recce platoon, part of us, we all got split down to 4 sections, and we all went to a different company when we went on operational tour, and we went in free company. And when we come back, we had a big brief with free company, and the company sergeant major from free company walked out, and he went, "Who wants a promotion course?" And I just put my hand up. At that stage, my platoon commander got upset with me, because he was like, "No, he thinks I need a few years." And anyway, I went and did the carder, went on the course, passed the course. When I drove back from the course, went to the commanding officer's office, and we all marched in and we got promoted there on the spot a couple of hours after passing the course, and I proved them wrong. Right, and that was massive for me. But after that, they booted me out of the platoon because I wasn't a senior. I wasn't senior enough.
Right. Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So and they didn't want someone who was young, who had obviously I'm very outspoken, being in a platoon telling people who've been in years what to do. So I then got shipped off to 7 Company, which is in Wellington Barracks, central London.
Right.
And from there, that was a ceremonial duty. And all the people who come out of Catterick, like all the new recruits, go there first.
Yep.
And we do like ceremonial duties. And that was pretty much where I started learning my trade as a Lance Corporal.
Right.
Which basically we call a 2IC. So you're second in command to a section commander. And that was a very big like turning point in my life and my career.
So at that stage, had you met your partner?
Oh yeah, so me and Jamila, literally when I was 17 when I was in Recce Platoon, as I said before, and we met over actually MSN.
Right, okay. Yeah, throwback to the good old
days.
MSN chats.
A lot of you probably don't know what MSN is, but it's on one of them old grey computers that you used to make all them crackly noises.
The computer was as wide screen-wise as it was deep.
Yes.
So you met on MSN?
I met on MSN, and we talked for a long time before we even met, and she went to Ibiza at 16 with like on a family holiday, and then when she came back, like she said she was on the taxi on the way back from the airport, and she messaged me straight away when she came back. And then I went and met her on a day after her birthday, and ever since then we've been together.
So was it, so I had one of my first girlfriends was at uni in Cardiff.
Right.
And I saw her every other weekend.
Yeah.
That was hard. And that's probably nothing on what you went through. Because I imagine being in the army, you probably, I assume you're away from her for a long period of time or long periods of time.
Yeah.
How did you kind of make it work?
At the start, obviously, when you're young, you want to see each other all the time, right?
Yeah.
And we used to see each other every other weekend, which it worked. It worked, but it kept it exciting.
Yeah.
Like over the fifth, it was about 11 years she was with me when I was in the army, 10 years. And I think that keeps the relationship fresh. And I think long distance relationships really work.
Yeah.
Like, especially with like the army and stuff like that, it was probably hard for her. Like, especially when I went to Afghan and she was at college. There was a lot of pressure. I've been with her 2 years at that point. Yeah. And there was a lot of pressure on her when she was doing like her A-levels and stuff like that.
A lot of time on her own, a lot of time thinking, do I want to be with someone who's now out at Afghan? There's a lot of other factors that...
Absolutely.
It's not the easy route to choose, is it, to be with someone that's at the army?
No, absolutely not. But
I do think the distance kind of makes you grow stronger because you have more time to miss each other.
Yeah.
And then when you do see each other, it's more exciting. So...
Well, every time we used to leave each other, like... we used to hate it when we used to have to leave each other, but also it just made us stronger.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We're a very, very strong couple for them reasons.
So fast forward to the last few years in the army.
Yeah.
What made you decide to leave? Okay. And what was it like kind of year 10, year 11?
Right.
Especially with relationships, that sort of dynamic.
So when I passed my promotion course to become a Lance Sergeant on Junior Brecon, my partner didn't tell me she was pregnant until the day that I'd passed my course.
Right, okay.
She didn't want to tell me because obviously she thought it'd mess with my mind while I was on the promotion course. And when I finished, I found out, and that was like the greatest thing for me because I always wanted children. She was never sure if she wanted children or not. And at that stage, I think she'd been pregnant like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. And she was super excited about it as well. It's never the right time, but it just worked. Do you know what I mean? We made it work, and it was one of the greatest things in my life. But also, on the other hand, it changed me and my goals and what I wanted to achieve. And I started to think like, what do I want myself, and not wanting to prove other people wrong about what I'm capable of. Yep. I was going to try and go on a SRR selection at one point after Junior Brecon because I was talking about it to the section commanders. My section commanders when I was on that course.
Okay, what's SRS?
SRR. It's a special reconnaissance regiment. So so it's the SAS, but it's like the reconnaissance side of that. So you go and collect information, gather information from the enemy, and then, but not going too much into it. But you collect the information and you plan attacks onto those enemies.
Right. Okay. Yep.
So anyway, that changed completely twisted what I wanted to do. So then I went, right, rather than doing that, I'll go and be a section commander in Catterick. And so that's what I went and did. I was section commander, training the next generation of recruits in Catterick, in the household division. And that was great. But then a year into that, I was like, just one day I walked in the office and I was like, this ain't me anymore. Yep. And literally I went on the computer there and then, and I signed off, pressed the 7 clicks on the computer and signed off. And everyone was amazed because I was really keen at that moment in time. I went home. I obviously hadn't told Jamila about this at all.
Yep.
And she was like, I was like, Jamila, I signed off today. And her face just completely dropped. She was like, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah, what's the plan now?
And I said, well, we've got a year to figure it out, because you have a year once you've signed off to serve before you can get out the British Army.
Right, okay.
And having my children and not being around my children every day, because knowing that move was coming, having to move back down south and thinking about my family still being up north, was like literally playing on my mind. And also I felt like I had something bigger to achieve.
More responsibilities that you had to kind of, you taken them on. So it was like stepping up to being a dad. Okay, and what were the toughest things you've seen or experienced whilst being in the army?
Experience-wise, it's got to be like being in Afghanistan. Yeah, it's got to be the toughest experiences that I've done. Like, I don't regret going to Afghanistan. I also had some of the best experiences of my life there, and I think it made me grow into the person I am today going there. Yeah. I think I came back a different person when I came back from that place, and my partner thought so also. But also some of the worst experiences there as well. Some of the stuff that you see really affects you mentally.
I can imagine like the toughest ones will probably be the best and the worst. So you've probably got a mixture of both. Being tough doesn't necessarily mean it's bad or good. No. I think it's how you either grow from it, what you take away from it as well. Yeah,
like you see some of the strongest people that you think, when I went, like joined the army, I've met these people, see some of the strongest people break down in situations that you thought that they never would have broke down in.
So physically strong or mentally strong?
Mentally. Yeah. But when you think and you see these people, and when you see them like in the UK and training, you think these people are going to be great, and some people just aren't.
Crumble when it comes to it.
Aren't as good as what it looks like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. In terms of physically strong, what was your fitness like? As in, what was your training like in the army?
Running fitness. My running fitness. To be honest, when I first joined the army, I wasn't very fit.
Okay.
I was probably one of the weakest in the pack. I was at like 67 kilos, had no upper body strength, had no cardio because I used to eat rubbish all the time. Yeah. And then when I finished training, I still wasn't like one of the fittest either. But when I left training, that was when I proper kicked into gear. Like, I started really running, got really fit, and I kicked on from there. And after that, I went into cycling. I've done a John O'Groats to Land's End in 10 days. Okay. We did like a Coldstream Guard cycle from John O'Groats to Land's End in 10 days, and that was a really good experience. Yeah. But then after cycling, I got a bit bored of that as well, and then I went into like slight bodybuilding. Got to like 110 kilos at one stage.
This is when you're at the army?
Still in the army. And I was a Lance Corporal at that stage, and I was looking at going on that promotion course again to go up a rank, but I was like, I'm too heavy. I ain't going to be able to run.
107.
Getting shin splints as I'm running, and that really affected me badly. So I had to drop back down. I dropped back down to about 80 kilos. Yeah. Then I thought, right, so how can I find something that is everything? Do you know what I mean? That I can enjoy, never going to get boring, like doing this bodybuilding stuff. When I saw a set of these rings in the gym. Right. And I was like, I wonder what I can do on those. I had a look online. Like, I was just doing bodybuilding at the time, and in 2 days I learned how to do strict ring muscle ups. And then I started following a program called Comp Train. Right, and this was in like 2015. Yeah. And I was like, I'll give it a go. Look what this CrossFit stuff's about. And to be honest, I started doing it. I've looked back at some videos recently, and the techniques and forms that I was doing was absolutely atrocious.
That's everyone who starts CrossFit for the first time. I mean, look at anyone's technique on any CrossFit movement. Yeah. Shocking. But
absolutely. And like that's how you grow, right? Yeah. Because I'm self-taught in CrossFit. I've never had a coach. I've never had like, I've been to CrossFit gyms, like in 2018 was my first CrossFit gym. I'd done 3 years then. Before that, of just learning movements, watching videos, recording myself, seeing what I'm doing wrong. And I think that's what makes you a better coach in the long run.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What was life like after leaving the army? So what happened for that year?
When I left the military, I didn't realise how difficult it was going to be. Like not knowing, when I joined the army at 16, not knowing any sort of civilian life or work experience. Like I'd worked in a car wash when I was 16, that was all I did before I joined the army. It was like hitting reality, realising that you're actually nobody. Like when you're in the army and you're a sergeant, you actually like got some sort of respect and you've got people relying on you. The only people relying on me were my family at the time, and I just felt like I had no place or no purpose in life. And it really hit me hard mentally. I had like 8 months to a year off of work, and my fiance went to work and she was providing for the family for that year. But like I think it did help me spending some time with my daughter, because I hadn't been able to spend that much time, like being away from all the time, going to different countries with the army and stuff like that. But what changed, my fiance fell pregnant with our second child, Quincy, and for some reason something switched in my head and I just went back into that provide mode. I needed to work. And then I started going into sales. I went into work for Everest, you know, the windows and doors company. That then was very difficult. Like I had to really learn the trade, like knocking on people's doors, talking to them like for half an hour, and you might not get nothing out of it. Like it is a very stressful, high pressure situation. But you've actually got to relax in, otherwise you won't get anywhere. I did that for about 4 or 5 months, and that was hard. But sometimes you could make a sale, which was about 17 grand, and you could come out with £5,000 from one sale. Do you know what I mean? But then sometimes you can make no sales for like 2 months. So, and there might be tiny ones. So like that wasn't, I couldn't.
There was no stability there because you couldn't guarantee commission. So it was the unknown.
The unknown, and that is fearful for me, because I was so like in the army, you're regimental, you get paid every single month on the 1st, and then your bills come out, and for me that was a very scary situation. But then I was like applying to jobs, and I went for a sales assistant job for a social media marketing company, a business development manager job, and called Be More Social in Doncaster. I don't think they exist anymore. But
well, they might do if you joined.
When I left, they just started going downhill. No, I went there. It was really good at the start, like excellent. Like within 9 months of working in the business, I became a sales manager. Never been in sales before, like in my life. But I think like just if you're that dedicated to anything, you can do anything you want to do. And it was great. It was great. And after that, I got poached by another company called Kaibo Tech Limited, and they're a massive organisation. I think they own like 5 different businesses. And I became their sales manager. And COVID just hit just after that, so I think I joined there and started there in January, and COVID hit,
which was like March time. Literally 2 months later.
2 months later, and what was it? No, sorry, it was the Christmas after that March. Christmas after that March, I joined that company, and I was still working from home full time, doing a sales manager, and I had a lot of time off to think, and like while I was selling loads, I had time to think what I wanted to do in my life, and that's where I started creating a plan to create CrossFit Gainsborough.
So all that time you were in sales, you were training at a CrossFit gym?
So when I went to Be More Social in Doncaster, I started training from a CrossFit gym in Doncaster called CrossFit Gainham. That was just basically like like training once a day. Just ticking over, getting better and slowly. And then from there, I went to work for that Kaibo Tech Limited. I went to CrossFit Retford, which is just down about 30 minutes down the road. I was travelling there every single day, like 30 minutes to go and train, and I started taking it a little bit more seriously. And then in 2020, from there I went and did my first ever competition, and that was the RX division of the Arnold's. I went there, got a big shock.
Yeah, humbled quickly.
Humbled massively. I think Reggie Vazza was there then at that time, and I looked at him and I was like, I'm 80 kilos and these are like jacked compared to me.
Yeah.
These like 90 kilos, all jacked, all tall, and I was struggling to clean 120 at the time. I don't think I could even squat clean 120 at that time. Yeah. So yeah, humbled massively, but massive experience and put a massive fire in me to push on.
So I think, okay, at what point did you decide to, obviously this was an idea, so you were working in your sales job, CrossFit Gainsborough was just an idea.
Yeah.
At what point did you think, okay, I'm actually going to press the button? And how did you, like, what was your first step into this actually happening?
I realised that when I sat there working on a computer, I was like, this ain't me. Like, I am a very active, very driven person, and just like, when you first start a new job anywhere, you are fully all in, you give it everything you got. But if it starts fading out, then it obviously ain't what you want to do for the rest of your life. So I needed to make that decision of what I wanted to do, and I've always wanted to own a gym or do something like that in my life. And then I thought, right, I'm going to open a CrossFit gym. In my local town, no one had ever heard of CrossFit here before. No one even knew what CrossFit was when I first moved in. It was a massive risk. So I started like looking at like business loans. How can I open a gym, rents, units, stuff like that? And I started creating a massive business plan. Me and my partner mostly massively helped me. Like, I wouldn't have this gym today if it wasn't for Jamila. Yeah. At one stage I nearly give up because I just couldn't get the funding, couldn't get any loans or anything like that. It was very difficult. And she put in all the research while I was working, and she found the business loan for me, and it went from there.
Where did you find this unit? Was it just?
No, it's just searched online.
Just listed.
And this was the last unit on this estate.
Right. Okay. So it was lucky.
It was lucky. Like, literally, I got in. I think previously this had been broken into because they was just building this unit. This was like the last ones being built, and they broke into it and robbed the last people here.
Right, okay. So you thought, that's the one for me.
That's the one for me. No. So, but he didn't rent it out to anyone else because he was waiting for like the security of everything, the security fences and everything to be put out. Yep. So I felt like this happened. Oh, this happened for me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It happened for a reason.
Yeah.
It was waiting for me, and it just worked out like that.
So you got the keys. Month one, how did you get people in? If people hadn't heard of CrossFit in Gainsborough, also Gainsborough, by the way, great name. All the Gainsborough.
All the Gains, mate.
All the Gainsborough.
Yeah.
How did you get people to either understand the concept, or how did you educate them, and how did you get members through the door in month one?
So first thing I did a month before, like, we launched, I'd obviously bought the affiliation a month beforehand as well and stuff like that, and I got the website out, social media set up. I done over I think it was like 3,000 leaflets. Yep. Literally went round, marketed massively. Like, being in a social media marketing company and my partner owning her own businesses before definitely helped. Yep. We literally marketed like mad. And in my first month, I had 38 clients. Yep. So that was dramatic because I was already breaking even within my first month. Yep. And like when I saw that, and I couldn't believe it, but the start of building this was absolutely crazy. Like, when I left my job,
I think people will see your month one and go, he's done well to do that. But what they won't see is the 4 or 5 months before, like getting the equipment in, painting the gym, kitting it out, like all that like physical labour to get it to where it is before you even open. Yeah, you could have done all that, open, no one's interested in CrossFit, and the risk's gone down the drain. So.
Well, yeah, the risk was massive. Like, I was the only one earning. My missus had just fell pregnant with her third child, and that was what prompted me to start. Like, if she didn't feel pregnant, I don't think I would have opened this gym. Yep. And I was like, if I don't do it now, it's never going to happen. Yeah. So
it almost just forced you.
Forced my hand. Yeah.
It's probably a sink or swim moment where you were like, okay, if this works, great. If it doesn't, I'm fucked.
Yeah. But the way I see it is like, if you're not going to take risks in your life, what's the point of living? Yeah. And that's just that. I think that's a really good way to live, because you only live once. Yeah. Like, what's money in the bank is nothing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? If you get into debt, you're going to pay it off one day, or you're just going to leave it behind you. Do you know what I mean? Don't really matter.
what are your plans for this gym or potentially a new gym going forward? Where do you see CrossFit Gainsborough in 2 years' time?
In 2 years' time, I'd like to be in 3 times the size unit. Like, it's 1,000 square foot now. Like, I've been open like just 2 years. It'll be the 2 years this January, and it is, like, the community here is amazing. Like, we've got a great community. Follow each other around competitions. Like, every competition I try and get to as much as possible. Do you know what I mean? I can only get to as many as I can. But like, I put so much energy and effort into them. But every time I go to a competition, I more or less tear up because that's how much effort I put into my clients. Yep. But yeah, I'd like to go massive. I'd like to go big. I'd like to hold competitions of my own, and just it creating that bigger environment gives me more variety. Yep. That I can teach. I can have like sledge pushes and stuff like that. Like right now, I ain't got the space, but we'll get to that. Yeah, I suppose once you say if you triple the size of the unit, then yeah, you can do high rocks. You can do there's various other classes you can introduce. Absolutely. And what about your personal goals for CrossFit? Let's say, I mean, you've got Euro Champs coming up. Yeah. Don't remind me. You know why you're not ready for it? No, I'm ready. Okay. I'm ready. Just nervous. Will we see a 160 clean and jerk this year? 160 clean and jerk, probably very not likely this year. Like, because obviously now I'm getting into peak. I'm cutting down in weight. Literally getting ready for like my gymnastics is more or less what I'm working on now. Yep. A weightlifting I've worked on for most of the year, and I got to the 150 from a 130 in a year. Yep. And I've really worked hard on that. So yeah, next year it'll be there. Okay, so next year's goals: 160 clean, CrossFit semi-finals. That hopefully. You said, I'm not forcing this. You said this off camera, so people don't want to think that I did say it off camera. Like that is my dream. Like, do you know what I mean? If you get to the semi-finals of CrossFit Games, anything can happen. Like if your workouts come up, you can get there. But like, no matter what happens, I'm 33 years old now. I ain't got much time left. I'm just going to give my all to being the best athlete that I can. And if I don't make it, at least I know I'll give it everything. Yep. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's also you're representing your gym, and you've got people almost looking up to you as a role model. You know, you're the coach of your gym. You're then going to the Euros. You're then aiming for semi-finals. Yeah, it's a good example. You're setting a good example to all the people here training. That's one thing about me. I don't like to let people down. Like, it's not about letting myself down. I feel like when I was even in the military, I felt like I was proving for other people. Nowadays, I want to prove it to myself, but now I know I've got all these people here. I don't want to go there thinking I'm going to disappoint these. Do you know what I mean? You're doing it for you, but you're also doing it for all your members. Yeah, absolutely. You see all the work you're putting in. To show them. And they do support me massively as well. Yeah. So Euro Champs, I'm going to get a WOD Pod T-shirt. So when you're on that podium, you can put that on. No dramas. So all the listeners in this episode will now be looking at the Euro Champs podium when it comes out to look for that T-shirt with Carlos representing. What do you think it takes then to get to, let's say, the semi-finals of the games? Could anyone get there? I don't think anyone can get there. I think it's more, we might have some people have got the natural ability to be great, but they haven't got the mental ability to be great. And I think that's what defines a great athlete from a good athlete. Yeah. The perfect example, like Matt Fraser, fittest man on earth ever. All right, Tia Toomey, like, their mental state is better than anybody's on the planet. Yeah. And they won't give up for nothing, and they won't give an edge to anybody. They'll try and win everything, be as good as they can at everything. And I'm working towards that. Like, mentally, I'm good enough. It's just now building my body to be as strong as my mind, and that's where I want to be. Yeah, I think a lot of people as well think they can get to the semi-finals because they look at the 1% of athletes. This is called, I think it's like survivorship bias. It's basically where people look at the top 1% of athletes who make it, and they think, because they're doing it, it's achievable. They're not looking at the 99% of athletes that also are trying, that also failed. Yeah. And actually the reality is, if that many people aren't making it, are you going to make it? Yeah. So I
I think that's where people kind of get lost in, there are loads of people that I'm following who are all making it to the semi-finals. I should be there.
No, it's not that easy.
It's not that easy. No.
Definitely not that easy. Like, you see people make it to the semi-finals and then you never see them in the semi-finals again.
Yep.
And because sometimes they get there and they literally get humbled and it literally destroys them.
Yep.
And they don't, like, they probably could get past that stage, but they've got broke at that stage.
They're kind of letting it defeat them when they're there. Yeah.
And if you let yourself get mentally defeated after a competition, you shouldn't be. You should be using that as fuel to push yourself harder.
100%.
And I've done that recently.
So, yeah, quick question from Cam then. So Cam said, who's a previous guest on the podcast, he said, gunpowder plot, were your box jumps actually no reps?
Our box jumps were reps. It's just Cam just took a little while to get up on the box because he was a bit tired. But if you ask the other team that was there on the day,
they were all no reps.
They were all no reps. But guess what? We didn't let them reps get added anyway, and we still beat them. So it don't make a difference.
Black Wolf, it was all fair judging, you know.
Yeah, it's all fair judging. They done a good job. Like, they don't get paid to be there. Do you know what I mean? And some of them are very new to doing CrossFit, so like, give them the benefit of the doubt.
Exactly.
Judge is doing the best he can. I
think that's it. And it's about they didn't react very well, which showed kind of their level of A, sportsmanship, B, the athlete they are. You know, a good athlete will accept the judge's call, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when you're an athlete and you're stood behind a railing shouting at a judge who's trying to judge a team who are literally hanging out, like literally out of breath, dying, and they're doing all they can, like, that's not what you should be doing as an athlete.
Not at all.
If you want to be a pro athlete, you've got to learn to be humble. And if you get beat on that day, go back to the drawing board, then come back and beat that team. Do you know what I mean? Don't start gobbing off at the athletes or the judge during that workout.
Yeah. Cam then said, his question was, if you were to start your CrossFit journey again, would you do any of it differently? If you did anything different, what would you do and why?
When I first fully got into CrossFit in 2018, I started training at CrossFit with them. I went there and I was like, right, I'm gonna be great at this. I'm gonna be amazing.
As we all do.
I'm gonna go into this gym and I'm gonna wreck everyone. Right? Yeah. Didn't happen. Right? I went full send on pretty much most workouts, and I've soon learned that going full send weren't the way forward. You burn out halfway through the workout and you end up getting overtaken. And also, I wish I took a step back and watched others and learnt more visually from these people. Because obviously, being self-taught beforehand, I didn't really know much about other CrossFit athletes. Yep. And when I did learn to stand back and take that time, then I started becoming a lot better. But saying that, I'll do it different. I might not be how I am today if I did do it different at the start.
Sure. It's hard to know, isn't it? Because it may have benefited you, may have not. But I do think that's a common theme with most beginner CrossFit athletes is full send. They don't understand the pacing. Yeah. And I think once you learn that, suddenly you're a completely different athlete when it comes to workouts.
And also, CrossFit was very early. Like in the UK, it still wasn't very massive in 2018 or just before that. It wasn't very big. Do you know what I mean? It was still just starting to grow at that stage to being very well known.
I'm trying to think when I first started, it was probably getting there. But I think since COVID, I think the COVID CrossFit Games kind of blew up. I think 2020 CrossFit in the UK was like an all-time high. It had the most searches. Most people were watching it. I think when everyone was at home doing
the couch to 5K.
Yeah, but it was like you were using like heavy weights and putting them in a bag and doing dumbbell curls and whatever you were doing, you had to become more functional. You couldn't go to a gym and do squats or leg press. So I think that twisted the dynamic and everyone started to look at functional training. Mm-hmm. I think bodybuilding is actually on a decline. Yeah. And I think people are now switching over to hybrid training or CrossFit. Yeah. So I think that was probably since 2020. Yeah. But yeah, now it's much more, I think people take it more seriously. And the education probably wasn't there when you were doing it at a beginner level.
I feel like I didn't start learning properly how to do CrossFit until 2 years after that. Yep. And really looking at how to do these movements correctly and not rushing into them. Yep. And when I started to take my time, that's when I started to learn how to be an actual proper athlete. Yep. And it's only the last 2 years I've really started competing and taking it seriously.
Yep.
Hopefully that is a longevity, and I'm going to peak later on in life.
We've got Euro Champs coming up, so that's the time to prove yourself.
Full peak performance at that stage.
So rapid fire questions.
Go.
Favourite brand of lifters?
TYR.
In pink.
In pink.
Favourite podium finish at competition?
The Rainier Trials came third as an individual.
Nice. What's your favourite or your best gymnastic skill?
Ring muscle ups.
Favourite gym you've been to in the UK, except this one, obviously.
That's a hard one.
Doesn't have to be a CrossFit gym. Could be any gym.
No, the best probably gym that I've seen layout wise is Valhalla in York. Like, I love the way that that's laid out. It's very presentable. Like the wall, it's just really, really good. And now they're looking to extend it as well.
Right.
So if you're looking to join a gym up in
York area,
York, that's definitely the one to join.
What's the best country you've been to?
Oh, best country. I've been to Belize, but Belize isn't the best country. I went to a little island called San Pedro. I don't know if you ever heard it, but Madonna's song. Last night I dreamt of San Pedro. You ever heard of that?
No, but I'm going to be looking it up after this.
Make sure you look that up, right?
I'm sure it'll sound completely different to that.
Yeah. No, just I was on tune.
Okay.
Anyway, I went to that island for like an R&R after I'd been teaching the Belize Defence Force.
Right.
And it's a little beautiful island, only a couple miles long. Had like sharks swimming around it, loads of like clubs and stuff. It was beautiful. It even had a CrossFit gym on it.
No way.
Yeah, it did.
Out of all the things.
All the things, it had a CrossFit gym, and that's one of the most beautiful places I've been. Like the seas and everything around you.
Like clear waters, white sand.
Stunning. Yeah. As you're going on the boat from Belize to there, on a little boat, it's got all these like islands that are owned by people with massive like mansions on them and stuff like that. Yeah, and big yachts and stuff.
I'll have to look it up. Favourite genre of music?
Oh, I don't really have a genre of music. Like, if I like a tune, like no matter what it is, but what
do you play most when you're
in the gym?
If you're working out on your own,
Living on a Prayer is one of my favourite. Bon Jovi, mate.
Nice. Very good. So I think that's the end of the questions.
Yeah.
Where can people find you on social media? Because I want people to be following your journey, especially the gym and also your individual career. So
if you can follow CrossFit Gainsborough, that's my gym. Like, obviously up and growing. Like, got roughly about 120 to 130 members right now. And then Carlos Kieran's my Instagram account. If you want to follow me on there, that's where I'm most active, and that's where I put all my training.
I want some photos of you with the beta-alanine, because Carlos is my number one beta-alanine user. He lives off it. So we're going to get some shots with the CrossFit Gainsborough, the orange background with the orange tubs. So we'll do that after the podcast. But yeah, thanks for joining me.
Cheers, Tom.
Really enjoyed that one. I hope you enjoyed that episode, and a huge thank you for listening. Make sure you're following the pod on Instagram at the.wad.pod, our Twitter at the_wad_pod. The podcast is sponsored by Wad Powders. That's at Wad Powders on Instagram. Please show some support to the pod by either sharing this episode with a mate or buying some supplements from wadpowders.co.uk. See you guys next week.